Hey guys, in this video I have the T16 sent to me for review. It's the latest radio from Jumper, but in a new shell with a large full-color 4.3-inch LCD. And as you can see, it gets a lot of its design cues from Futaba this time around, much like the first Jumper radio, the T8SG. So the T16 is a major step ahead of its previous Jumper radios like the T12 or the T8SG Plus, while still being affordable at $150. So I'm going to quickly unbox this thing just to show you what you get when you do purchase one of these radios. So it does include a screen protector for the color display, and here I'm going to take it out of the box so you can see it a little better. It's definitely bigger than previous Jumper radios like the T12, and I do like the look of it. It feels very premium, and as usual it comes with the orange Jumper neck strap. And there's also a mini USB cable to hook it up to your computer. And finally, there are some spare parts for these. I think are the gimbals. So with the unboxing out of the way, let's take a closer look at this transmitter. So these are the gimbals, and they are not Hall sensor, but still pretty good. And these, of course, are the trim buttons, and that's the power button in the center there. And there's the 4.3-inch LCD screen, and there's the rolling selector knob, which I really like, and there are 3 buttons on the left side. And at the top here you will find these rotary dials, as well as a couple of other buttons here, 6 of them. On the left side here you'll see these sliders, and on the right side there are also sliders as well. And at the switches here at the front, they're all 3 position. So, and the ones up top there are 3 position as well. The only 2 that are not are the ones at the back there. These are 2 position. So now let's just take a look at the back here. So the thing that I want to show you is the battery tray. And this one has a battery tray that holds 2 18650 batteries. And these are the type of batteries that are typically found in flashlights. And they're not very common, so you will have to buy them separately. Or you can use like a 2S LiPo battery. That should fit in there as well. And at the very top, you will see the mini USB connector right there, as well as the headphone jack. And this is probably just an unused antenna hole, but maybe for future expansion or something like that. But it's usually covered up with this rubber grommet. And that's the top of the transmitter. So these are the 18650 batteries that I mentioned before, and typically these are used for flashlights, and I happen to have a couple of these already. Now the cool thing about these batteries is that it has the USB connector built in, so you can just plug them directly to a USB port and then start charging it. This way you don't need any external charger. So to install these, all you have to do is put them in the included battery tray and then plugging them into the compartment in the back of the T16 and then putting on the cover. I'll also show you the other type of battery that you can use with the T16, which is a regular, a 2S 7.4 volt battery. They typically will have the same kind of connector as well that you can plug directly into the back of the T16. So here's a 2S 7.4 volt LiPo that I have kicking around, and I believe this came from like a helicopter, but it has the same kind of connector. And it's a 2S connector that most batteries will have, and it just plugs directly into that same port. So as long as you get a battery that's about the same size as the battery tray, it should fit into the back of the T16. So one last thing about the back of the transmitter is the micro SD card slot. It is inside the battery compartment and right here, and to get it out you just have to push it and it will be ejected. The T16 I would consider a full-size radio since it is larger than the previous models like the T12 or the T8SG. The T16 also uses Jumper TX, which is like a derivative of OpenTX. It's basically OpenTX with some modifications to make it work for the T16. So when you receive the T16, it does come with Jumper TX already installed, and this is the version at 2.2.3 with a build date of March 17th. For multi-protocol support, so that you can talk to many models, it uses the JP 4-in-1 that plugs into its the T16's JR bay, and the multi-module alone sells for around $40. So getting it bundled in is great, but if you already have a 4-in-1 module, well, you're gonna have another one. And just to recap what the JP4-in-1 is, it's a module that has 4 RF chips built in: the NRF24, A7105, CC2500, the CYRF. And what it does, it makes it so that your radio is capable of speaking many protocols, including, FlySky, FRSky, SEMA, DSM-X, DSM-2, and there's a ton more that I can't really name right now, but there is a list of them out there. And essentially, it makes it so that your radio can control your whole fleet of aircraft. And this is really cost effective because you only need one radio instead of having, multiple radios to control each brand. If you typically fly indoor quads or micro quads, multi-protocol is the way to go. In general, when I fly my indoor quads, I just use multi-protocol radios like the Jumper T12 or a Tyrannus with a 4-in-1 module. And in this case, the T16, it already comes with a 4-in-1 module, so you're getting a lot of value there. So the very first thing we need to do is do the radio setup. So hold down the sys button, and you want to change the date and time, and scroll all the way down until you get to the default channel order. And I believe when I got it, the default channel order was set to RETA, and it basically jumbled up all my channels and everything. So set it to AETR here and make sure you have the right mode. Typically this is what I use, but if it's different, you're gonna have to experiment in terms of which channel goes where. But that's all you really need to set up in here. Just hit the return button, top right. And now we're going to create a new model. So to create a new model, hold down the selector dial until you get to this screen, choose model select. And what you want to do is hold down the selector again, choose create model, and we're going to hit return to skip the wizard. So a new model has been created. It's called model 10. And with the new model selected, hit return. And once you're brought to the main screen again, you want to hit the model button, which is the first button on the left here. Hold it down, and this is where you can basically configure the model. So the first thing we're going to do is give it a name. I'm going to be pairing this with, or binding it with, the JJRC1000A. So I'm quickly going to enter the model name here, and with the rotary selector knob, it makes it a lot quicker to enter characters and numbers. If you want to enter a capital letter, instead of just quickly pressing the selector, what you want to do is hold down the selector and it will make it a capital letter like I'm doing right now. And the next thing you can add is a model image. So there are a few built in already. So I'm just going to select a generic kind of like quadcopter for this one. It's a V250. And scroll all the way down until you get to the RF module section. And we're going to turn off the internal module because there isn't one. And then we're going to enable the external JP4-in-1, which is the MULT. Make sure that's selected. And in my case, I am flying the JGRC1000A, and of course it uses the V2X2 protocol. But as you can see, I'm scrolling through various other protocols like DSM, DSM2, etc. The next thing I usually do is enable the bind on power up option. This way, when you turn on your transmitter, it will start to look for a quadcopter to bind with. Binding the transmitter is fairly simple. You want to make sure that you have the proper model selected. In our case, is the JJRC1000A. Then hold down the model button, and you want to scroll down all the way to the bottom where it says bind, and you want to select it. And before you hit enter, what you want to do is connect the battery, and the light should be flashing on the quadcopter. Then hit the selector, and it should start binding with it. And you can tell when the lights are solid on your quadcopter, and you can see that you can move the throttle to turn the propellers. One more thing I want to show you is how to reverse your channels in case your quadcopter is going in the opposite direction of your sticks. So if you go to outputs and select the channel that is like going in the opposite direction, what you want to do is move the selector to direction and hit the selector, and it should flip reverse the channel. So this is where you do it, and hit return to get back to the main screen. So the Jumper T16, is it something you have to get? Let's face it, there is so many options out there when it comes to multi-protocol radios. So unless you have gear acquisition syndrome and you don't already have a decent radio with multi-protocol capabilities, the T16 is just another option in your quest for the perfect radio. I think competition is great for us consumers because without it, we'd still be paying hundreds of dollars for a radio that supported one protocol. And now we have so many options in terms of multi-protocol radios, especially coming from Jumper, because they've ever since their first radio, they always had that capability built in. Everyone has different budgets and requirements, so it's nice to have options. The T16 is a bit overkill when my T12 works great, especially for my indoor flying needs. However, I do see how much nicer the larger screen and the rolling selector button is. Anyways, that's it for this review. Hopefully this video will help you decide which to buy for your next radio, and I will see you next time.